Okay, Andy, thank you very much. It's a pleasure for me and an honor to interview you.
Trust me, the pleasure is all mine. So thank you for having me on your show.
Thank you very much. How did Andy Piller make his idea of a festival inside?
Well, I mean, a lot of people know the story already, and they always think it's just a made-up story. It is actually the truth. First of all, probably you want to know how I came up with such an idea. As you probably know, I have an apartment in Vancouver, British Columbia, where I am sometimes, and so many years ago, I was sitting on the balcony there of my apartment, from where I can actually see the cruise ship pier in Vancouver, where there was cruise ships that in the summer of the half of the year they're going to Alaska. And I had a couple of drinks with my friends there on a nice summer evening. Obviously I had one drink too many, and then I had the idea, hey, why don't we charter one of these cruise ships and put a heavy metal festival on? And then all of my friends were like, Andy, you're crazy, that's never gonna work, they're gonna sink the ship, people go overboard, all these kind of things, So the next day I woke up and I had kind of a headache, but I still had this idea spinning in my head. And then it took me a couple of years, First of all, I had to learn some things about the cruise industry, I worked my whole life in the live music industry. I was a local promoter back in Europe, and then a tour agent, and then a tour manager for 15 years. But of course, I did not know really anything about the cruise industry. So I had to visit several ships, find a ship that is actually suitable, because my idea from the beginning on was building a stage on the pool deck. Of course, we started on a much smaller ship, but still we had a big stage out there. And then, of course, finding a cruise line that would actually allow us to do something like this. But the biggest challenge, of course, was finding the money, the financing to do something like that, So in total, it was more than 3.5 years of preparation time until the first cruise, But finally, it happened, and then it was a real good success. And look where we are in the meantime, So that's the short version of the story. Of course, there is many years and many problems and crying and trying again. And originally, I wanted to actually start the first one a year earlier, but didn't get it together. Mainly the money, But so it was a year later. But as they always say, if you don't succeed at first, try again.
Is there any new idea of yours for another festival, or to make this festival even bigger?
Look, I actually many years ago in 2012 I did a second cruise with a different program. It was called Barge to Hell. The market, I think, was not really ready yet. It was also genre-wise, it was much narrower, just on extreme metal. So this was not such a success. I still think it's a great brand. I don't want to say that we're never going to do it again, in the future, because in the meantime the market really grew, and there was other ones that do similar concepts in the meantime. I think we're still the leading light. We're still by far the biggest one, compared to all the other ones. And we are at capacity here. There are plans for the future. But it needs a lot of lead time. You cannot just charter such a ship a couple of months before. So, look, I'm actually right now already working for 2023. So, there are other plans, there is a lot of ships, there is a lot of oceans, not only the Caribbean, but that's actually all I can tell you right now.
Okay. How do you see the future of L7?
Well, a little bit similar of what I just told you in the previous, based on your previous question. There is a lot of ships around. I strongly think that for roughly the time frame, 70,000 tons of metal will always stay somewhere in January, February. We sometimes had a little bit earlier, sometimes a little bit later, but it will always be around that. I'll tell afterwards at the press conference when you're there. I can tell you already now. It's just 2 hours, so it doesn't make a big difference, Yeah. Next year will be a little bit earlier. It will be January 7th until January the 11th. And we are switching back to what we had during the times when we were on the smaller ship, on the Majesty. So it will not be Thursday to Monday over the weekend. It will be Monday to Friday. So which for a lot of overall our international guests, I think it is better. It doesn't cut into 2 work weeks. They really have the weekend before to travel here, the weekend after to come home and to probably sleep for a little while, because nobody gets much sleep here. So that is next year. And yeah, you're one of the first ones that actually know this now.
Thank you very much.
But as I said, in a couple of hours, this is going to be public knowledge anyway. So this is for next year. I can't really tell you much more for the future because, obviously.
And where will we?
We will be leaving again from Fort Lauderdale, which is basically a suburb of Miami. When you talk to somebody like outside of the United States, they don't really know what Fort Lauderdale is, but every kid around the world knows where Miami is, so Miami, Fort Lauderdale. And because it is around 10, we will go back where we went the very, very first time. So we will go to Cozumel, Mexico.
You think about the current music industry?
Well, lots of things changed in the music industry over the last 10, 15 years. Certainly the internet changed a lot. It's kind of hard to throw the whole music industry into one basket. We know the recording industry just kind of totally changed. It's now selling CDs, or the hard product is basically like merchandise. It basically disappeared. Many of the record companies disappeared, whatever. So, but as I always said, because I always worked in the live music industry, live you cannot burn on a CD. You can also not download from the internet or whatever. So it is an experience. You have to be there, and especially what we do here, we have a lot of very exclusive shows. Every year we have a couple of bands actually do an album premiere. You can actually listen to the album before anybody else in the world. And these are unique things, and this is something even though you can probably download the album afterwards, if whether you pay for it or you steal it, it is not like being there and experiencing it live, So, and you can see that the concert industry is thriving around the world, because it is something that cannot be replicated. You have to be there to experience it, actually. So this part of the industry is thriving, and I don't see this going away anytime soon. Yep.
Okay. What does metal means to you?
It's part of my life, I have an older brother. He's 6 years older than I am. And I still remember this to this day when I was a little kid, like 6, 7 years old. He came with a lot of, every week or so he bought a new record, of course all the big ones that were at that time around. We were living in Germany at that time. So a lot of the German bands, Accept and the Scorpions and Warlock was around, and stuff like this, But also some of the English bands, British bands, Iron Maiden, Judas Priest, and so on. And so every time when he came with a new album, and I was a little kid, he put the headphones on me, and I had to listen to the entire album, and then I had to grade all the songs and so, and that obviously had a very, very lasting effect on me. And I wouldn't really consider myself as a fan per se, but I was just always fascinated by that music. And me personally, at home I don't only listen to heavy metal, I also listen to other things. I like variety, but for work I just when afterwards my brother brought me for the first time, I was maybe 11 or 12 years old, to the first concert. I was like, wow, that's cool. And when I find something cool, then I always want to do it myself, So I started at a very, very, very humble age, I was in high school. I started with small concerts, and then my parents were not so happy about this, and it had a very negative effect on my school career, you know. But in the end, like that hobby became work, and it was up and down, up and down. And as I told you before, I was a tour manager for 15 years. Eventually working with some Canadian bands that brought me to Vancouver, and like fell in love with that city, and got an apartment there, and together with my that time girlfriend. And yeah, that's what I was doing ever since. And through sometimes these strange coincidences, working with some Canadian bands out of Vancouver, and being there, seeing cruise ships, and then now you know where I am. You know,
it's your life.
Yeah, exactly. But for me, it's just, you know, as I say sometimes, there is metal in my veins. You know, I mean, the heavy metal crowd, the older people. It's like a family. I mean, look, we have people from more than 70 countries here, 70. There is people from all different backgrounds, different races, different religions. All this, I actually have goosebumps just telling this to you. And they're all here, and they are having one big party together. That's why, you know, I'm sometimes saying we are truly the United Nations of heavy metal at sea. And we're all the same, all equal. Everybody is the same, you know. And this is like this little example for that. And having these people from all around the world coming here for the same reason, for the love of heavy metal, that makes me really proud. And there is no problems. You don't see any fights or nothing, you know. So this is in a very, very small version how I believe the world should be, you know.
Yeah. And your brother still loves metal?
Yeah. He's actually just there behind us there. He still loves heavy metal, you know, overall since I'm doing this thing with the cruise, and now, I mean, he doesn't regularly work for me. He still lives in Switzerland and has a job there. But every year he comes out on the cruise and helps me with certain things and so. And he loves it, you know. And the thing is, because he just helps out with some things, he actually gets to enjoy much more of the cruise. And for me, it's just 24 hours running around, making sure that everybody has the time of their life.
What do you think about the South American fans?
Passion, you know, like generally Latin people, I mean, that's known around the world, are like, they are hot-blooded and this and that, you know. I'm also going every year. I mean, back in the day when I was a tour manager, I did some tours in Latin America, which was maybe also because there is less concerts, there is less tours. I had similar experiences sometimes in Eastern Europe, you know, like when you go to countries like Belarus or the Ukraine or Romania or whatever, where there is not like shows all the time every weekend, so people are much more hungry. And then on top of that, as I said, Latin people are very emotional, this and that. So this combination is like, it's like, wow, you know, it's, you know, like it doesn't matter where I go in Latin America, when I go to shows there, it's so nice, you know. And the people are so friendly, are so open, you know. I love it. Really.
Maybe you have visited Ecuador?
I unfortunately have not been to Ecuador yet. You know, I've been to many South and Central American countries, but Ecuador is not yet. Unfortunately, well, it's not. This is, you know, like look, I'm born in Germany, but I'm half Swiss, I'm half German. I grew up mainly in Switzerland. That's a very, very small country too, you know. So
what would you say to Ecuadorian entrepreneurs about their projects and dreams?
Never give up. Never give up, you know. Like, look, it took me many years, you know, like to fight, and where at a time when nobody really believed in that, and I didn't give up. And look, in the end, as I told you before, I had to delay the whole project by 1 more year. Maybe a lot of other people would have given up. I don't, you know. If you don't succeed at first, try again. And what I always think about a good entrepreneur, find your niche, make something unique, make something that nobody has done before, you know, because so you have some kind of exclusivity, and never stop inventing. reinvent yourself, because even if you have something, and this is a problem with a lot of entrepreneurs, you know, like then finally they reach success and then they lean back. Right? You can't, you know, because whenever there is something that works, you will have people that copy you. And for that thing, I think that competition is good for business. It keeps you on your toes and keeps you, like, you know, like, keep on making it better. Don't become lazy, because otherwise, boom, somebody else comes, takes your idea and makes it better. So always try to be a step ahead.
Okay, and what do you say to Ecuadorian fans that wants to come to?
Well, I don't want to talk too much politics, but get your visa early enough, you know. This is very, very unfortunate that it's getting harder and harder, you know. As I said, I don't really. You can put one and one together, you know. So I'm not such a fan of what is going on right now. But we have to deal with it. As I always say, if you want to change the world, first you have to take it the way it is, and then try to better it, you know. So yeah, for friends from Ecuador, get your visas early enough, because the cruise is leaving from the United States, you know, and you need visas to come here, you know. So yeah, start that process early enough. Yeah. The same thing, of course, for our tickets, you know, that we're selling out pretty fast, you know. Don't wait too long. Book early.
And the next cruise will be with 3,000.
The next cruise will be on the same ship. Yes.
Yes.
There is. I told you there is plans. You know, I can't really tell you much more, but contracts have to be made so long in advance. You know, and I also want to make things right. I learned my lessons, because as human beings we only really learn when it really hurts. You know. And I got my fingers slammed into the door once or twice really badly. So I want to make it right. I don't want to bite off more than I can chew, you know. So we have a product that really works. And yes, there is a future, and maybe there will be other things, bigger things, whatever, you know. We don't know. Well, I know, maybe, you know, but I won't tell you. Sorry, you know. Like as many of us, we have this soon hashtag soon.
Yeah,
you know, you
sure.
will know soon. You know. So yeah, wait and see.
Okay, thank you very much, Andy.
You're more than welcome. I really appreciate.
It is an honor
Having
for
me.
us, and a lot of Ecuadorian people is coming to Ecuadorian and Latin American people.
I appreciate it. This is Andy, the skipper of 70,000 tons of metal, the original, the world's biggest heavy metal cruise, and you are listening to La Zona de Metal.